What's up you guys, Sambo here. Today I've got a little tutorial video. Hopefully it can help you guys with some detailing. Now, if you are not familiar with my channel and my type of detailing, my detailing is actually really basic. So it basically contains different types of trees, different pathways, hedges, and fences. That's basically all you need. You can actually use a lot of the vanilla stuff, but there are a few other things that I will recommend. Now it's very basic, but some of these tips are what I use on both of my cities, so my on-camera cities and also my off-camera cities. There's also some little tricks that I do to divert your attention away from certain things and divert your attention to certain things. So we'll check that out throughout this tutorial and hopefully you guys can get something. I should also say some of these things that I'm going to mention might seem really basic or really obvious, but sometimes it's nice to hear these really basic things over because it's kind of like a reminder. It gets it back in your head again. So let's get into it. So the first tip that I want to talk about is establishing what is the focus of your city or of the screen. So basically what that means is once you've established what is the main focus, you can really detail that area more because you're going to look at that area more, and then the surrounding areas can kind of just be like a filler area. So if we look at these areas behind here, the only detailing I've done is just putting in some trees, and that's basically it. So choose your focus and basically just fill in the areas in that focus because those areas are the areas that you're always going to see. So for example, I'm always going to be drawn to this harbour, but I'm not really going to be always drawn to maybe a really quiet suburban area. So more detail in areas that you're more likely to look at and less detail in areas that you're not likely to look at. So if we look at this example right here, my focus for me personally is on all of the roads. So you got the highway there, you got the main road in the middle, and then the other larger road to the right. But in the housing areas, it's really quite minimal detailing. And the next one is probably the most important one ever to making your areas look good. Fill in areas, fill in tiny little gaps. So for example, here I filled it in with gardens, fences. And if we look at this area right here, so it's this weird area between the shops and the residential area. No trees, but if I put in trees, to me, that looks so much better because you're utilizing that weird little bit of space and just putting something in there, and it doesn't have to be something really great. So again, I've just thrown in some trees, and this is kind of like a filler area because I'm more drawn to that park right there. So I'm not really going to focus on this residential area, so less detailing in that area. So just filling in all of those little areas. Now, the filling in an area could just be from trees, or it could be putting in hedges or seats and tables or things like that. But it's just really important to, even if you're not really great at detailing, you can just literally plop down a tree and it changes the whole look of an area, and it just makes it look like the area has actually been noticed, if that makes sense. It kind of sounds weird, but once an area has been noticed and you've done something about it to fill it in or to make an effort to fill it in, it really makes it look different, and it makes it look like you've put more effort into it. So more filling in all of those awkward little areas, trust me, it'll work out really good. And you guys always seem to notice that it looks really good, so. Now this tip might sound a bit dumb, but when you have a road, make sure you align things to it. So if things aren't aligned, for example, this hedge right here, if that wasn't aligned, there'd be some awkward little gaps in between the road and the hedge. There'd be an awkward little grass patch, and that just looks odd, right? Same with building. So if you're using the Move It mod, make sure you move the building directly into the alignment with the road, otherwise you're going to have awkward little gaps. So for example here, this residential building with the hedge on the corner fits in quite nicely. There's no awkward little spaces in this area. If there are, so if you look at that building on the right, I filled it in with tiny little bushes. And yeah, so this is a residential area. It's a bit of a curving area, so you need to make sure the houses are nice and curved towards the alignment of the road. Similar to the alignment of things to roads, I really recommend using fences and hedges. I use them all the time, and they're really great for, again, filling in those awkward little areas and just utilizing a space. And just by putting in a hedge or a fence, it makes the area look like someone has looked at it, someone has implemented something and it's being looked after, and people are just aware of the area instead of just doing trees, but you're doing one extra thing, which is that hedge or the fences. So here I've used the hedges in a little quiet little back street. You can see the mountain in the background, really cozy looking area, and with hedges it makes the area look really, it just makes it look good. And hedges are realistic, they're good for defining areas, so defining their backyard, defining where pathways should go, and ultimately it makes it look neater, it makes it look well kept, you know what I mean? So use hedges, use fences. They're really great, they're in the game for free already, so you don't really have to download any. The hedges, I would recommend downloading some different ones that can actually curve. So you do have the ones that are vanilla in the game already, but I would recommend getting ones like this that actually curve around. Another really awesome tip that I noticed not really many other people do is use a real variety of plants, vegetation. So you'll always notice throughout my cities, whether it's my Semivostok or a tutorial video, you'll always notice there's a good variety of plants. So whether you want to have an area that has large vegetation, low vegetation, have a variety. So if we look at right here, you can see there's some shrubs on the ground, there's some really high ones in the background, we got some medium ones in the middle, we got some vanilla trees to the left right there. So there's a real good variety, and this one right here, I think there's like maybe 8 different types. So a lot of them have different colors, different heights, different bushiness and things like that. So doing a variety, it really makes your city look more in depth. And if you are going to do larger trees, I would recommend doing a bit of a ground cover like I've done here, so it's flowers on the bottom, or you can use another bush like that. It just fills in the area, makes it look more in detail. Dealing with terrain can actually be a little bit tricky. So sometimes in certain maps, the terrain, it is kind of ugly because when you have really steep areas, it gets pixelated or it just looks bad. So there are 3 different things that you can do to hide that. So the first one is to use the ground cover. So this one right here, the vegetation, that is an in-game thing you can find with the rocks. And it's really good if you want to use that on the side of a shoreline as well. So you can mask that area between the ground and the water. But you can also use rocks as well. So the rocks are in-game as well. Good variety. I don't really use any other rocks. I just use the vanilla ones. Good for hiding those weird terrain areas. Good for hiding the shorelines. Or good for just detailing an area. So if we look over here in this more fancy residential area, so the part that you're looking at is actually a cliff. So what I've done is I've used a heavier vegetation to hide the edges and then just covered it with trees. Or you could go with a more lighter approach. So I've still used the ground vegetation cover, but the good thing about the ground vegetation cover is that it actually moves with the terrain. So if you're putting it on a really steep area, the bushes are actually going to be aligned with the steep area. Or the third option is to actually just download a better map theme. So I like this one because you can see the cliffs, they actually do look nice. The grass looks good, so you could get something like that, and then you don't have to worry about using all the terrain covers. But anyway, just putting those options out there. And the last one isn't really a tip, but it's something just to look out for that I should tell you guys. So when you're placing down plants like this, so if you're holding it down and clicking, it's actually placing a whole bunch. So it's not just placing one. So you can see the 3 different hedges right there. If I actually go and delete them, there's about 5 of them on each one, and that's quite a lot. That's going to add up in your game. That's going to make it really laggy. And if I try to delete all of these ones at the back, look how long it takes to actually delete all of those. So what's actually happening is if you use the brush option, it's set at 1. And when it's set at 1, you're placing down so many per click. But if you actually just pull it down below 1.00, it's going to actually not do that thing where it places down so many. So if you just go like this, you can see it's not placing a whole bunch at the same time. And if you adjust it higher, of course there's going to be more. But just letting you guys know, because I was always like, why is my game so laggy? But it turns out because every time I clicked a bush down, it was placing like 5 of them at once. So that's all from me. Like I said, I know my detailing is really basic, but it gets the job done, and it does look quite good in my opinion. And now you guys kind of know how I do a lot of this basic stuff. Now I wanted to keep it quite simple in this video. I wanted it to be easily replicated so you guys can easily do it in your own cities and not have to worry about downloading a whole bunch of things. So a lot of these things that I used are vanilla or easy to download on the workshop. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in a few days. I'll be moving house, so I won't be able to make a video, but I'll get back as soon as I can. And yeah, bye guys.